Chapter 61, Percy. Percy wasn't dead yet, but he was already tired of being a corpse. As they trudged towards the heart of the towers, he kept glancing down at his body, wondering how it could belong to him. His arms looked like bleached leather pulled over sticks. His skeletal legs seemed to dissolve into smoke with every step. He'd learned to move more normally with the death mist, more or less, but the magical shroud still made him feel like he was wrapped in a coat of Helen. He worried that the death mist might cling to him forever, even if they somehow managed to survive the towers. He didn't want to spend the rest of his life looking like an extra from The Walking Dead. Percy tried to focus on something else, but there was no safe direction to look. Under his feet, the ground glistened, a northern purple pulsing with webs of vines. In the dim red light of the blood clouds, death mist, Annabeth looked like a freshly risen zombie. Ahead of them was the most depressing view of all. Spread to the horizon was an army of monsters, flocks of winged array, tribes of lumbering cyclopses, clusters of floating evil spirits, thousands of baddies, maybe 10,000? Tens of thousands. And all milling, restless, pressing against one another, growling and fighting for space. Like the lock area of an overcrowded school between classes. If all the students were void-tagging mutants who smelt really bad, Bob led them towards the edge of the army. Bob led them to the edge of the army. He made no effort to hide. Not that it would have done any good. Being 10 feet tall and glowing silver, Bob didn't do stealth very well. About 30 yards from the nearest monsters, Bob turned to face Percy. "Stay quiet and stay behind me," Bob said. They will not notice you, we hope, Percy muttered. On the Titan's shoulders, small Bob woke up from a nap. He purred seemingly and nudged his back, turning skeletal, then back to Calico. At least he didn't seem nervous. Annabeth examined her own zombie hands. "Bob, if we're invisible, how can you see us? I mean, you're technically, you know?" "Yes," Bob said, "but we are friends." "Nyx and her children could see us," Annabeth said. Bob shrugged. "That was in Nyx's realm. That is different." Right. Annabeth didn't sound reassured, but they were here now. They didn't have any choice but to try. Percy stared at a swarm of vicious monsters. "But at least we don't have to worry about bumping into any other friends in this crowd." Bob grinned. "Yes, that's good news. Now let's go. Death is close. Is close. Doors of death are close. Annabeth corrected. "Let's watch the phrasing." They plunged into the crowd. Percy trembled so badly he was afraid the death mist would shake right off him. He'd seen large groups of monsters before. He'd fought an army of them during the Battle of Manhattan, but this was different. Whenever he fought more monsters in the mortal world, Percy at least knew he was defending his own. That gave him courage, no matter how bad the odds were. Here, Percy was the invader. He didn't belong in this multitude of monsters any more than this miniature belonged in Penn Station at rush hour. A few feet away, a group of Impalsia tore into the carriage of Gryphon, while other Gryphons flew around them, walking out in outrage. They seeked some Earthborn and Lay Street, Johnny and Giant pummeled each other with rocks, though Percy wasn't sure if they were fighting or just messing around. Like a dark wisp of smoke, Percy guessed it must be an Eidolon seeped into smoke. Percy guessed it might be an Eidolon seeped into a Cyclops. Maybe the monster hit himself in the face. then drifted off to possess another victim. Annabeth whispered, "Percy, look!" A stone's throw away. A guy in cowboy outfit was cracking a whip at some fire-breathing horses. The wrangler wore a Stetson hat on his greasy hair, an extra-large set of jeans, and a pair of black leather boots. From the side, he might have passed for a human, until he turned and Percy saw that his upper body was split into 3 different chests, each one dressed in a different colour of western shirt. It was definitely Jaron, who had tried to kill Percy 2 years ago. 2 years ago in Texas. Apparently, the evil ranger was anxious to break in a new herd. The idea of that guy riding out of the doors of death made Percy's sides hurt all over again. His ribs throbbed where the area unleashed Gurren's dying curse back in the forest. He wanted to march up to the 3-bodied ranker, smack him in the face and yell, "Thanks a lot, Tex!" Sadly, he couldn't. How many old enemies were in this crowd? Percy began to realize that every battle he'd won had only been a temporary victory. No matter how strong or lucky he was, no matter how many monsters he destroyed, Percy would eventually fail. He was only one mortal. He would get too old, too weak, or too slow. He would die, and these monsters, they lasted forever. They just kept coming back. Maybe it would take them months or years to reform. Maybe even centuries, but they would be reborn. They would be reborn. Seeing their assemble into towers, Percy felt as hopeless as the spirit in the river Cochus. So what if he was a hero? So what if he did something brave? Evil was always here, regenerating, bubbling under the surface. Percy was no more than a minor anyone to these immortal beings. They just had to outweight him. Someday Percy's sons or daughters might have to face them all over again. Sons and daughters? The thought jarred him. As quickly, as hopelessly as it had overtaken him, it disappeared. He glanced at Annabeth. She still looked like a misty corpse, but he managed her true appearance. Her grey eyes full of determination. Her blonde hair pulled back in a bandana. Face weary and streaked with grime, but as beautiful as ever. Okay, maybe monsters kept coming back forever, but so did demigods. Generation after generation, Camp Half-Blood and had endured, and Camp Jupiter, even separately. The 3 camps have survived. Now if the Greeks and the Romans would come together, they would be even stronger. There was still hope. He and Annabeth come this far. The doors of death were almost within reach. Sons and daughters. A ridiculous thought. An awesome thought. What? An awesome thought. A ridiculous thought. An awesome thought. Right there in the middle of the towers, Percy grinned. "What's wrong?" Annabeth whispered. With his zombie, death missed its eyes. Percy probably looked like he was grimacing in pain. "Nothing," he said. "I was just somewhere in front of them." A deep voice bellowed, "Lapatos!" Chapter 62. Percy. He Titan strode towards them, casually kicking lesser monsters out of his way. He was roughly the same height as Bob, with the elaborate Stygian iron armor, a single diamond blazing in the center of his breastplate. His eyes were blue, white, like core samples from a glacier, and just as cold. His hair was the same color, cut in military style. A battle helmet shaped like a bear's head was tucked under his arm. From his belt hung a sword the size of a surfboard. Despite his battle scars, the Titan's face was handsome and strangely familiar. Percy was pretty sure he'd never seen the guy before, but his eyes and his smile reminded Percy of someone. The Titan stopped in front of Bob. He clapped him on the shoulder. "Lapidus, don't tell me you don't recognize your own brother." "No," Bob agreed nervously. "I won't tell you that." The other Titan threw back his head and laughed. "I heard you were thrown into the leap. Must have been terrible. We all knew you would heal eventually." "It's Coeus." "Coeus?" "Of course," Bob said. "Coeus, Titan of the North," Coeus said. "I know," Bob shouted. They laughed together and took turns hitting each other in the arm. Apparently miffed by all the joking, Smobble crawled onto Bob's head and began making a nest in the Titan's silver hair. "Poor old Lapidus," said Coeus. "They must have laid you low indeed. Look at you, a brilliant servant's uniform, a cat in your hair. Truly, Hades must pay for these insults." "Who was that demigod to your memory? Bah, I must rip him to pieces. You and I, eh?" "Ha ha," Bob snorted. "Yes, indeed. Rip him to pieces." Percy's fingers closed around his pen. He didn't think much of Bob's brother, even without the rip him to pieces threat. Compared to Bob's simple way of speaking, quite sounded like he was reciting Shakespeare. That alone was enough to make Percy irritated. He was ready to uncap Riptide immediately, but so far Coinus didn't seem to have noticed him, and Bob hadn't betrayed them yet. They had plenty of opportunities. "Ah, it's good to see you." Coinus drummed his fingers on his bear's head helmet. "You remember what fun we had in the old days?" "Of course," Bob chirped. "When we were holding down our father Uranus," Coinus said. "Yes, we loved wrestling with Dad. We restrained him." "That's what I meant." "Well, Cronus cut him to pieces with his scythe." "Yes, ha ha." Bob looked mildly ill. "What fun." You grabbed Father's right foot, as I recall," Coeus said. "Oh, and Uranus kicked you in the face as he struggled." "How we used to tease you about that." "Silly me," Bob agreed. "Sadly, your brother Cronus was dissolved by the impudent demigods." Coeus heaved a sigh. "Bits and pieces of his essence remain, but nothing you could put together again. I suppose some injuries even to Taurus cannot heal. Alas, but the rest of us have another chance to shine, eh?" He leaned forwards conspiratorially. "These giants may think they will rule. Let them be our shock troops and destroy the Olympians. And well and good, but once the Earth Mother is awake, she will remember that we are her eldest children. Mark my words, the Titans will yet rule the cosmos." Bob said. "The giants may not like that." "Spit on what they like," Coeus said. "They've already passed through the doors of death anyway. Back to the mortal world. Polyboats was the last one, not half an hour ago. Still, grumbling about missing her prey. Apparently some demigods. He was after got swallowed by knights. Never see them again. I wager." Annabeth gripped Percy's wrist. True to death, mist. He could read her expression very well. There was the alarm in her eyes. If the giants had already passed through the doors, then at least they wouldn't be hunting through the towers for Percy and Annabeth. Unfortunately, that also meant their friends in the mortal world were in even greater danger. All of the earlier fights with the giants had been in vain. Their enemies would be reborn as strong as ever. Well, Coeus drew his massive sword, the blade radioactive a cold deeper than the Hubbard Glacier. I must be off, Leto. You have regenerated by now. I'll convince her to fight. Of course, Bob and Leto. Boys laughed. You've forgotten my daughter as well? I suppose it's been too long since you've seen her. The peaceful ones, like her always, take the longest to reform. This time, though, I'm sure Leto will fight for vengeance. The way Jesus treated her, after she bore him those fine twins. Outrageous. Percy almost grunted out loud. The twins? He remembered the name Leto, mother of Apollo, and Artemis. The guy Coius looked vaguely familiar because he had Artemis's cold eyes and Apollo's smile. The Titan was their grandfather, Leto's father. The idea gave Percy a new age, and we'll see you in the mortal world. Coius's chest bumped Bob, almost knocking the cat off his head. Oh, and our two other buds are guarding the sides of the doors, so you'll see them soon enough. I will. Count on it. Coius lumbered off, almost knocking over Percy and Annabeth as they scrambled out of his way. Before the crowd of monsters could fill the empty space, Percy motioned for Bob to lean in. You okay, big guy? Percy whispered. Bob frowned. I do not know. Is all this he gestured around them? What is the meaning of okay? Fair point. Percy thought. Annabeth peered towards the doors of death, though the crowds of monsters blocked them from view. Did I hear correctly 2 more giants guarding our exit? That's not good. Percy looked at Bob. The Titan's distant expression worried him. Do you remember Coius? He asked gently. All that stuff he was talking about? Bob gripped him. Bob gripped his broom. When he told me, I remembered. He had me like my past, like a spare, but I did not know if I should take it. Is it still mine? If I did not want it? No, understood from me. Bob, you're different now. You're better. The kitten jumped off Bob's head, circled the Titan's feet, bumping his head against the Titan's trouser cuff. Bob didn't seem to notice. Percy wished he could be as certain as Annabeth. He wished he could tell Bob with absolute confidence that he should forget about his past. But Percy understood Bob's confusion. He remembered the day he opened his eyes at the Wolf House in California, his memory wiped clean by hair. If somebody had been waiting for Percy when he first woke up, if they convinced Percy that his name was Bob and he was a friend of the Titans, the giants, would Percy have believed it? Would he have felt betrayed once he found out his true identity? This is different, he told himself. We're the good guys. But were they? Percy had left Bob in Hades' palace at the mercy of a new master who hated him. Percy didn't feel like he had much right to tell Bob what to do now, even if their lives depended on it. I think you can choose, Bob, Percy mentioned. Take the parts of Lapidus's past that you want to keep. Leave the rest. Your future is what matters. Future? Bob mused. This is a mortal concept. I am not meant to change, Percy, friend. He gazed around him at the horde of monsters. We're the same forever. If you were the same, Percy said, Annabeth and I would have been dead already. Maybe we weren't meant to be friends, but you are. But we are. You've been the best friend we could ask for. Bob's silver eyes looked darker than usual. He held out his hand. A small ball of the kitten jumped into it. The Titan rose to his full height. Let us go, then, friends. Not much further. Stomping onto Taurus's heart wasn't nearly as much fun as it sounded. The purplish ground was slippery and constantly pulsing. It looked flat from the distance, but up close it was made of folds and ridges that got harder to navigate. The further they walked, gnarled lumps of red arteries and blue veins gave Percy some footholds. When he had to climb, but the going was slow. Ahead, of course, while the monsters were everywhere. Packs of hellhounds prowled the plains, baying and snarling, and attacking any monster that dropped its guard. Air ray wheeled overhead on leathery wings, making ghastly dark silhouettes in the poison clouds. Percy stumbled. His hands touched a red artery, and a tingling sensation wetted up his arm. "There's water in here," he said. "Actual water?" Bob grunted. "One of the 5 rivers. His blood." "His blood?" Annabeth stepped away from the nearest clump of veins. I knew all the rivers, all the underworld rivers, all emptied into Tartarus. But yes, Bob agreed. They all flow through his heart. Percy traced his hand across the web of capillaries. Was there water or sticks flowing beneath his fingers? Or maybe the leaf, if one of those veins popped when he stepped on it? Percy shuddered. He realized he was taking a scroll across the most dangerous circulatory system in the universe. "We should hurry," Annabeth said. "If we can't," her voice trailed off. Ahead of them, jagged streaks of darkness tore through the air like lightning, except pure black. "The doors," Bob said. "Must be a large group going through." Percy's mouth tasted like Gorgon's blood. He and his friends from the Argo didn't manage to find the other side. Of the doors of death. How could they possibly fight the waves of monsters that were coming through? Especially for the giants already waiting for them. "Do all the monsters go through the House of Hades?" he asked. "How big is that place?" Bob shrugged. "Perhaps they ascended elsewhere when they stepped through. The House of Hades is in the earth, yes. That is Gaia's realm. She can send her minions wherever she wishes." Percy's spirit sank. Monsters coming through the doors of death to threaten his friends at Epirus? That was bad enough. Now imagine the ground on the mortal side as one big subway system, depositing giants and other nasties anywhere Gaia wanted them to go. Anywhere Gaia wanted them to go. Camp Half-Blood, Camp Jupiter, or in the path of the Argo too, before it could even reach Epirus. If Gaia has that much power, couldn't she control where we end up? Percy really hated that question. Sometimes he wished Annabeth weren't so smart. Bob scratched his chin. "You are not monsters. It may be different for you." Great, Percy thought. He didn't relish the idea of Gaia waiting for them on the other side, ready to teleport them into the middle of a mountain. But at least the doors were they chose to get out of the towers. It wasn't like they had a better option. Bob helped them over over the top of another ridge. Suddenly the doors of death were in plain view. A freestanding rectangle of darkness at the top of the next heart muscle hill, about a quarter of a mile away, surrounded by a horde of monsters so thick Percy could have walked on their heads all the way across. The doors were still too far away to make out much detail, but the titans flanked either side were familiar enough. The one on the left was shining gold armor that shimmered with heat. "Hyperion," Percy muttered. "The guy just won't stay dead." The one on the right wore dark blue armor with ram horns curling from sides of his helmet. Percy had only seen his dreams in dreams before, but it was definitely Quios, the giant Jason had killed in the battle for Mount Tam. Bob's other brother, Padma said. The death mist shimmered around her, temporarily turning her face into a grinning skull. "Bob, if you have to fight them, can you?" Bob hefted his broom like he was ready for a messy cleaning job. "We must hurry," he said, which Percy noticed wasn't really an answer. "Follow me,"